Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I thought today that it would be fun to just talk through some of my favourite books that I've read whilst I've been at university. I think that I'll do kind of a follow-up video to this where I talk about like readings more generally, because I'm sure anyone who's been to university knows that a text can be really broad. It can be a film, it can be a magazine, it can be an article, a book, whatever. But today I'm going to exclusively talk about books that might be novels or poetry collections, that kind of thing. Some of these are from my courses at UAB, a couple of them are from my courses at Western University that I did on my year abroad. And yeah, I just honestly love talking about books, so I figured this would be a fun one to do. And I can just kind of whiz through the modules I read these on and why I enjoyed them so much. So I thought that I would go chronologically, and I'm going to start off with a book that I read in second year for the module 20th Century American Literature and Culture, Mainstream and Margins with Rona Cram, and I absolutely love this module. Honestly, a lot of what I read on that module I really enjoyed, and if I do a follow-up, I'll touch on some more of the readings. But this novel was one of my favourites. I actually wrote my essay on it, and I ended up reading it, I think, 3 or 4 times. Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. And yeah, I really liked it. If you've ever watched the film, you might know that like the plot kind of comes off a bit slow, but it has quite a dramatic ending. I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, I really liked this one, and I kind of didn't really enjoy many of my first year module readings, I won't lie. So in second year, this was one of the first books I read, and I was really excited to finally have a novel that I really enjoyed. So yeah, that was one of the first books at university that I really enjoyed, and I still really enjoy it now. I might actually reread it again soon because I really like it. I just really enjoy how it comments on suburbia. Yeah, I think it says some really interesting things without giving away too much. So that's my first favourite. Now I'm going to turn to a couple of books that I read on my year abroad that I absolutely love. The first of them I read in semester 1 there, and it was in my Indigenous Literatures of Turtle Island module, and it's called Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. A phenomenal book, and I've actually read some poetry by Joshua Whitehead too, which is also amazing. He's just really a fantastic writer. And I will say that this module on my year abroad really opened my eyes to how interested I was in Indigenous literature, and I've gone on to read a lot more of it since. So I'm really thankful for this book for kind of opening my eyes to one of my passions that I maybe didn't know was there at the time. But yeah, this book is fantastic. It really grapples with a lot of important themes. It kind of blends the sacred and the sexual, and it talks a lot about fetishization of Indigenous people and queer Indigenous bodies particularly. So yeah, fantastic. And on the back of that, another book that I sadly don't have in physical form anymore. I had to leave it behind on my year abroad in Canada because my case was too heavy. But that book is The Marrow Thieves by Cherie Dimaline. And that's another fantastic book that grapples with really important historical and present day themes of residential schooling and intergenerational trauma and present day traumas that Indigenous people are experiencing. But it kind of takes residential schooling into like a dystopian science fiction kind of narrative, and yeah, it's fantastic. I really enjoyed that, and that's quite an easy read too. It's technically like a young adult book, but I think that it would be a fantastic read for all ages, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm very sad that I don't have it in physical form anymore. Just this one by Joshua Whitehead. And then I want to talk about one last book from my year abroad. This one I read in second semester in a module on called The Creative Moment, and it was a special topics module in English literature. So it was really challenging but really exciting, and I got to read Shakespeare for the first time in a very long time. Didn't enjoy that as much, I will say. But this book is by Alice Munro. It's called Lives of Girls and Women, and Alice Munro is really well known for short stories, and this is her first, and I think only, I might be wrong on that, novel style book. This one is kind of a short story cycle, so a collection of short stories that kind of make a wider story or novel, if you will. And it really touches again on themes that I'm really interested in, such as gender and identity and coming of age. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's nice because you can read it from start to finish. You can read it in various different orders and reread your favourite short story over and over again, and that's really nice. So yeah, Alice Munro is a Canadian author who actually went to Western University, where I studied at. And I was just looking here at the different stories in it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 stories. One of them is an epilogue at the end, but my favourite was Baptizing, which is the penultimate short story in it. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. And fun story about this, I actually borrowed the book from the library at Weston, at the Weldon Library, but because of COVID I had to come home early before the class ended, and then still had to buy the book anyway. But I'm kind of glad because I can obviously reread it now, and I've ordered some more Alice Munro books since that I haven't got with me right now, but yeah, so I'm going to keep reading some more of her. And then last but not least, I'm just going to touch on one more book, and this one I've read in my final year really recently. Semester 1 I did a module with Rona Cranagan, and it was called New York City Poetics, multiple voices, New York City Poetics, and yeah, just an absolutely fantastic module. I can't scream enough about how amazing Rona is. And so yeah, this was obviously a poetry module. We read a few different poetry collections, but this was one of my favourites. It's kind of just like a novel in a sense too, because of how it's written, but this is Joe Brainard's I Remember, and it's a lovely little kind of pocket-sized book, and it's a very easy read, and he kind of subverts the idea of poetry having any kind of deep symbolic meaning in the way that he writes, and I really like that, and I kind of identified with a lot of what he had to say. He is a queer writer and painter and just all round really talented man who I enjoyed learning about. So they are my top 5. I don't have the 5th one, but this is Mara Thieves on the end. Favourite books that I have read so far in my university career. More books to be read next semester, so maybe I'll do a follow-up if any of these change or I get any more favourites. But yeah, and I just think there's a really good mix here. There's like, you know, a poetry collection, a short story cycle, some Indigenous literature, some kind of classic American literature. Yeah, and I've just loved how varied the texts I've been able to read have been. And yeah, if you go out and read any of these, let me know. You definitely should. They're all well worth reading, and some of them you can get pretty cheaply online too, which is nice. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. There'll be something similar coming again in the future. Have a lovely day, and I will see you guys next month for another one.